You're listening to the Level Flight Podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the Level Flight Podcast. This is episode 16. I am joined by Elliott today.
Hey.
And unfortunately, we are not joined by Brian. He is at the cabin. We're both hoping he doesn't see Chevy out there.
Yep, I was just supposed to make a Chevy joke.
I mean, if he's going to the cabin, like, that joke is writing itself. So.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Brian's enjoying the reading week. He's taking some time off, and we don't blame him. We hope he's having a great time. He's posted some photos out there. It looks like he's having an awesome time. So we'll miss him on this episode, but he'll be back for the next one.
Yeah.
We do have some games to talk about. We have 4 games to talk about, to be specific, which we went from talking about no games 2 weeks ago to 4 now, which is great. The first game, I believe, is Columbus.
Yep.
3-1 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sounded a lot of alarms on Jets Twitter, basically because they lost to Columbus. Like, I don't blame people for freaking out. Like, Columbus stinks. What were your initial thoughts from this game? I thought they controlled play for the majority and got goalied, but there was a theme that kept popping up through all of these losses that I want to get to, but it was more apparent in the New York Islander game and the Devils game, so I'm going to wait. But what were your thoughts?
I thought they played okay in this game. Like, it's going to happen. This isn't like you're playing Pee-wee hockey, and of course, if you lose to the worst team in the league, oh my God, that's the worst thing ever. And I get it. People are going to freak out, and you lose a game you probably should win. And at this point in the season, you need to be beating the teams that are worse than you. But it's the National Hockey League. They're still professional players. They're still going to play well. It just means that, yes, their talent may be lower than yours, but they're still some of the best players in the world. So you can't really get upset about them losing to them as much as you probably should. And yeah, they got goalied a little bit. I thought they played pretty well. They created a bunch of chances. They had some lulls and yeah, a bunch of problems keep sprouting up in these games. And yeah, we'll get into it. But I thought they played okay. I didn't think it was that big of an issue.
Yeah, and you know, I think they deserve to win this game. Like, I think Korpisalo had a great game. And if you look, like, the Blue Jackets haven't even been that bad lately. They beat the Jets, they beat the Stars on the road, they beat the Leafs on the road, and then they played the Devils tight at home on Valentine's Day. So they weren't even that, like, they were kind of coming in hot. Like, I don't know. They're playing good hockey.
We keep running into hot teams. What is this? But
when the expectation does need to be higher, like, I agree. Like, losing to Columbus is unacceptable. But they did, like, it would have been more concerning had they gotten outplayed for 60 minutes and lost 3-1 to Columbus. And Hellebuyck, like, bailed them out and kept it from being like a 5-1 or 6-1 game. This was a game where it was like, if it went into OT at 3-3 and then the Jets won, I totally would have believed that, because I don't know, they generated enough. They just kind of, I don't want to say they got goalied, because I feel like they could have generated more, but Korpisalo was great.
Yeah, after a year of him not playing very well, like, you get unlucky that one of his better.
Game.
You get unlucky. You run into a goalie that has a good night, like, and that's gonna happen. It's hockey, right?
Yeah.
But really, I think the Jets probably need to steal at least 1 point from that game. Like, I would have been if they're gonna lose, I'd really prefer it to be in overtime or a shootout right now, especially to Columbus, because it's like, well, it was 2-2. You played pretty good, and you lost in overtime 3-2, and at least you get a point out of it. And I'd probably feel a little bit better, but they didn't get, obviously you get no points for losing. So it stings a little bit.
That's Dallas Stars hockey, is losing in OT and shootout. They have like 11 overtime losses.
And we have like, we either win in overtime. Yeah. Well, we win in overtime. We just need, that's what I'm saying. The game just needs to go to overtime. And I feel pretty confident about this team in overtime, but
exactly. The next game is against the Devils. They lost this one too, 4-2. And this one, I think this one was like, the Devils are a top 4, top 5, top 3, whatever team in hockey. And this was the first night of the back-to-back.
Yeah.
As opposed to the second night, but they played better in this game than they did the New York game, but they lost this one. Whatever. they started out okay. First period was okay, and then the third period they just fell apart. And Bonus said it after like every loss. He probably said it after the New York game because that was basically a loss. Hellebuyck is just ridiculous. But he every single game he said like, "Oh, we made mistakes with the puck. We didn't handle the puck well. We didn't make good decisions under pressure, stuff like that." The puck management issues, oh my goodness, it was so bad. Like the turnovers in the defensive zone, in the neutral zone, wherever, they're just turning the puck over, they're throwing it away. In the Islanders game, they turned the puck over. The Appleton drop pass, and
I
then
was gonna get in. I was gonna get into that.
the
when we get
second
into
goal,
that
like
game.
there's just examples of it everywhere. And then the Rangers game, I mean, did they even have the puck at all? Like, so you can't mismanage the
How
puck
did
when
they
you don't
score
have it.
4? I don't know.
Hellebuyck didn't mismanage the puck, so he was the one touching the puck the whole game. Anyways, this Devils game, Devils are great. There was a lot to be desired in terms of like chance generation. I feel like they should have lost this game 4-2. And then the third period was just really hard to watch because of those puck management issues. But how did you see this one?
I thought the first period was pretty good. Like I thought we played well early on, but then as we've seen throughout this season, as the game goes on, it's just it gets worse and worse. And so you have to take it as, okay, you have a decent start, you're playing okay, but you have to keep that level of play the same. Like I don't understand. Like I understand you turning over the puck early and then later on in the game you kind of figure things out. I don't understand this team managing the puck well, and then it just completely turns into mismanaging, even though the Devils really aren't putting more pressure on than they were before. Like it would make more sense if I was like, oh, they're amping this up and they're forcing them to make mistakes. No, the Jet, half of the mistakes that they've been making recently are just unforced errors that don't need to happen. Now, and I will mention it when we get back to the Appleton drop pass as soon as we start talking about the Islanders game. But I think with the lines, as much as I like Bonus shuffling the lines, because we have mentioned that Paul Maurice never shuffled anything. I don't even think he's shuffled a deck of cards in his life. But if you think about it, how do you create chemistry with your line mates?
Playing together.
Yep. Like and as much as we like the lines moving around, we'll get into with Appleton, but like that drop pass is a perfect example of not knowing your teammates or where they like to cut. Now, I know I'm just a viewer and I get that I only see things, but I think I'm pretty I think I would know if I was going to drop a pass to Ehlers. I don't think I'd drop it in the middle, like right at the blue line, right in the middle. Sorry.
camera issues. Hold on. Yeah, I get what you're saying though. Like the Bonus talked about it too. Someone asked him about like, how do you juggle switching the lines up and players building chemistry? And he had an answer basically saying like, I can switch the lines as much as I want. It wasn't this arrogant. I'm going to say it very arrogant, but he didn't respond like this, but I'm paraphrasing. He basically said that I can change the lines as much as I want. It's on the players to build that chemistry, which is true to an extent. But like you said, it's tough when Appleton is playing next to Lowry. He's on the fourth line and then boom, he's up on the top line. And it's been kind of out of necessity. But speaking of lines, this game, the Devils game, was the start of the Nikolaj Ehlers issue that we're going to get into later in the episode. But he got 12 minutes and what did he get? 12 minutes and 41 seconds of time on ice. We'll move into the New York game now where he got 12 minutes and 50 seconds of time on ice. I did not. Yeah, that just
I don't
get
get
into
it.
that. We'll get into that. But the New York game, this is the Connor Hellebuyck game. 51 shots against, 50 saves. He made 30, or it was 29 slot. He faced 29 slot shots, which is a league-wide season high. No goalie in a single game has faced more slot shots in a game this year, and he again saved 50 of them. I think Money Puck had it like 3.5 goals saved above expected. Evolving Hockey had it at like 3.9 or something.
My
So
word.
like, and then those like the 3.9 was, I believe, the second highest of the year for him, and the highest was Vegas. But this one was more impressive because they won. Obviously, the Jets were opportunistic offensively. Connor and Scheifele made some really nice plays, but again, it was Hellebuyck. It was puck management issues. They played the entire game in their own end. It was the second night of a back-to-back. Hellebuyck played both games.
Yeah.
And some people were worried, like, oh, Hellebuyck, second night of back-to-back. He just came off like the illness or whatever held him out last week. Is he going to be okay to do 2 nights in a row? And then he clearly was.
He seemed more than right. It was like he didn't even get the first game of the back-to-back. Like,
Bonus said that too. He said something like, it was a light workload against New Jersey, but whatever.
Light workload.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Whatever. And then the New York game, 50 saves. I still can't wrap my head around that. The highlights are amazing because it's such a Hellebuyck game where like there's maybe 1 or 2 saves where it's like a highlight reel save, like the Kreider power play one where he scoops it out of the air into his glove. And then the one where he's like laying on his side and the puck like hits him in the head. Like those are like, whoa, like how did he save that? Besides that, it was just Connor Hellebuyck just being in the right spot and letting the puck hit him, which is literally what has made him like one of the best goalies in the league. It was so much fun to watch. He was just it was like that was a like positioning masterclass by Connor Hellebuyck in that game.
Literally, if I was training a goalie, I'd probably throw them that game tape and be like, this is how you position yourself in front of the puck.
Yeah, like, and even the Kreider save, which is like his quote unquote nicest save of the game, the puck just kind of like lands in his glove because he's in the right spot and he like scoops it out of the air. Boom. That was just amazing. I don't know if we have anything else to say besides Hellebuyck is insane.
Yeah, but like you said, he is so good at just positioning himself in front of the puck. And that's all. As much as people like to say, oh, being a goalie, you need to be flexible and this and that. No, it's like, I think as much as we know that Connor Hellebuyck can make the acrobatic save and he is an athlete, he's an athletic goaltender. I really think that what makes him stand out to other goalies is his positioning, is just because he knows how to read the puck, figure out his vision through screening. Like realistically, if I'm being honest, and I'm sure somebody can correct me on this or tell me what the answer is, but I would actually like to know how many times Connor Hellebuyck's actually been scored on this season while being screened. I know the Jets have been better at that and clearing guys out in front of him so he can see. But I really want to know the amount of shots he's taken that have been shot against him and the saves and goals when he's been actually like screened. Just because I think that number would be low, or at least the goal number would be low, just because his vision is so good, and because his vision is good, he knows where to position himself. So this is a game where they didn't deserve to win this game, but they somehow scored 4 in this game. So I don't get how you can't score 4 against the Devils and you can score 4 against the Rangers and play worse. But that's sports.
On the other side of the crease, Igor Shesterkin had an awful game, one of his worst that I've seen him play, because he's the opposite of Hellebuyck, where he's the acrobatic goalie that is flashy and can really move side to side and make like highlight reel saves. But he just was like that Scheifele goal where it was basically just on the goal line and he tapped it in with his stick. That like it hit him in the chest and then he just like turned and then the puck landed back where it hit his chest and he just like turned and I'm like, what, like where is he looking? I don't know. But if you like, just to give Connor Hellebuyck some context, that was probably a top 3, top 5 game of his career.
Oh, I was gonna bring that up,
like maybe even like the best if you want to argue. Like 50 saves, you can't really argue against that. But if you watch like just other hockey games, like last night I was watching Calgary versus Arizona, and Tyler Toffoli walks in, takes probably 3 strides over the blue line and shoots a shot, and it goes through Karel Vejmelka's, what is it, the 7-hole or whatever, in between the blocker and the arm, and it trickles in. I'm like, I have never seen Connor Hellebuyck, and like Vejmelka's good. Like a team made trade for him at the deadline who needs a goalie. Like he's not a terrible goalie,
Yeah.
but he let in a goal from like 30 feet away. It's like, well, like Connor Hellebuyck, if he sees a shot, like it could be from like 10 feet away, he's saving it.
Yeah.
Like never mind Tyler Toffoli walking in over the blue line and shooting like maybe 2-3 strides, and that goes in. Like you never ever see Hellebuyck give those up.
And if you do,
That used
it's
to be a
very
thing.
rare.
Yeah, that used to be a thing earlier in his career, and I think people like from the Pavlik era kind of brought that into Hellebuyck, but it was kind of unwarranted. But it was like he made all the nice saves or the positional saves, but then he'd give up like behind the goal line, he'd give up a weak goal, which happens. Like if you're being a goalie in the NHL, that happens. But this year especially, there haven't been weak goals really at all. Like a lot of the goals that are being scored against him are either like 2-on-1s, backdoor tap-ins, and it's like, well, what can you really do there? And
it has to be with the players. It has to do with who's in front of him. Like
he does get beat with the occasional shot, but then again, it's like which goalie doesn't? Andre Vasilevsky gets like that's just playing net. You're not going to save every shot. But it's those shots from far away that you expect the goalie to save that they don't. That like really hurt a team, and he never lets those in. Never. It's ridiculous. Enough about Hellebuyck. We'll get back into him later in the episode. But the Islanders game, this one happened last night. We're recording this Thursday. 2-1 loss, and I would say this is the best game they played on the trip. How did you see this one?
Yeah, I thought it was like, and Connor and I were talking about it before the show. I was looking on Money Puck on the deserve to win meter. I get it's just a stat, but just for stats people and just to throw it out there, the only game the Jets deserved to lose was the game they won. Every other single game on this road trip, they deserved to win and didn't. So we're going to bring it up later, and I'll probably reiterate my point. But and not just looking at stats, also you look just at the game film, especially early on, the Jets created a lot of chances. They looked good. And I think, I don't know if it's a morale thing or what, but they create a lot of chances early, and then they don't score. And it's not like, okay, let's keep going. Let's keep bringing this momentum. It's kind of like the moment they hit a wall, and they kind of just go, oh, well, I guess we're not scoring 3 tonight. We can't even get 1 right now. And then I'm not trying to say that they give up, but it just feels like the chance generation just gets less and less, because then we've seen in some other games where they try to then later in the game, they try to do too much to try to score when they should just be trying to make the simple play because it's got to go in at some point. But it just seems like the chance generation becomes less and less, and they just don't do enough. Now, I know I said I would bring it up, and I'll reiterate my point. Chemistry, Mason Appleton. If I'm playing with Ehlers, I know as a viewer, and you probably should know as your teammate, and I'm not trying to say I know more than an NHL player, but if I'm Ehlers, you see him go to the outside more often, towards the boards. He likes to play on the outside with his speed. If I'm Appleton, sure, with Adam Lowry, that drop pass is great because you know he's a big body. Nobody's going to want to come at him when you drop the puck because they're going to want to step back to make sure they can absorb contact. They don't want to go into him. So, of course, that drop pass to the middle is a great play. With Ehlers, that's not a great play because he wants to go to the outside. So if he dropped it to the outside and then there was a turnover, okay, fine. Wouldn't have a problem. Also, it's to the boards. 2 guys are there. They can get back. You can kind of close in. You can kind of minimize the giveaway. But when you drop the puck to the middle like that, even with Adam Lowry, let's say, that's still a dangerous play. All the Islanders were collapsing towards the middle. The rest of the Jets were on the outside trying to make a play there. And so I just think that as much as that's a terrible giveaway from Mason Appleton, you never give the puck up in the middle of the zone. As much as it is a big problem there, I would still have to say that that's like down to a chemistry thing. And I get he's been moved up to that line a bunch of times, but he's maybe gotten like 3-4 shifts and then he's been moved down the lineup, not played a whole game with them. So it's new. Do I agree with the change? Absolutely not. Like, you look at the line combinations, like, if I'm being real, like, I think you got to move either Sam Gagner up there, which we know has worked, or you move Ehlers up and you move Gagner to the second line, and you keep Appleton on the fourth, or you move other guys around. I just think right now, especially now with an injury to Perfetti, this is even more of a reason for the Jets to make a trade.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have no idea
100%.
how long Perfetti... Do we know how long Perfetti's out? I'm not
I think
sure.
Bonus yesterday said he's waiting for a doctor's report. So I'm assuming they're going to get that when they go back home. So probably
So it could...
soon.
And with that there, I would assume it's a longer term injury.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to, it's hard to speculate because I don't no one knows when it happened or what happened.
Yeah.
Because they just said oh, he got hurt mid-game and played through it. And it was well, okay, you can't really point to one thing and be that was it.
So if you can play through it mid-game, wouldn't you not think putting him on IR is not the right
but nah, adrenaline's still just
that is
players
true.
can play with ridiculous things
that is
mid-game.
true.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Anyway,
but if to further your point, if Ehlers does cut middle on that drop pass, we might be talking about another injury in the top 6 because
sure.
Like you said, all the Islanders players were collapsing. He's getting his head taken off. If he's moving lateral at the blue line with Islanders players coming from the bench, he's just
it's a head on
run over. Yeah.
So anyway,
but
I thought they played
anyways.
Okay,
it ends up in the back of the net.
Yeah.
It ends up in the back of the net anyways. Yeah, but like you said, they played good. This was probably the best game they played. The Islanders like to trap it up. They like to rely on Elias.
This is what they're built for.
Yeah. And that's what they did is they kept it 1-1 and then they capitalized on a puck management turnover. Well, it was kind of forced, but whatever.
Yeah.
Walked out. Hellebuyck was screened, didn't see the shot. Boom, 2-1. Trapped it up the rest of the game and they win. That's Islanders hockey. That's what they do.
Which is funny because they have Matthew Barzal, but
he's out. He didn't play.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be building around your superstar who, yes, I get he's not a goal scorer, but he's a point putter upper, and they play a different.
But that even helps them because they'll just trap it up. But then when he's on the ice, they're like, okay, go get us a goal now. And then when he's off the ice, they're like, all right, we're gonna trap it up with Anders Lee and Brock Nelson. We're just gonna sit back here and hit you every time you try and come over the blue line.
Wait, but no, would it be Anders Lee? Or is he on vet? No, I'm thinking somebody else.
No,
never mind. I'm thinking the Vancouver trade. Never mind. Anyway, doesn't matter. This isn't an Islanders podcast. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, true. Okay. Yes. 2-1 loss. They outplayed them. We agree there. Did they the puck management issues popped up again? Ehlers actually got 18 and a half minutes of time on ice, so that's good. That's actually a good transition. We're going to talk about the usage of Nikolaj Ehlers, and we've talked about it quite a bit already, the chemistry and stuff. But what are your initial thoughts? Just kind of because when he first was getting 12 minutes a game, Perfetti was still in the lineup.
Yeah,
and they did the line blender. The third line was Ehlers, Lowry, Wheeler, and there were tweets from everyone when the period would end, it would be oh, Ehlers would end the game this way too, but at the end of the first period, it would be Ehlers is the lowest ice time out of all forwards except for the fourth line. Instead of Stenlund, Maenalainen, Gagner for whoever was the fourth line for those games, it'd be Ehlers and then those three, and that would be the bottom four. And it's well, we know how good Nikolaj Ehlers is. He scored a goal in the lone goal in the Islanders game last night.
Beautiful goal.
Yeah, great goal. But what needs to change? Because is it as simple as getting him more ice time? They put him on the first power play last night, which is
Thank
good.
Goodness.
That's a good step in the right direction. He scored. But yeah, what do you think needs to be done? Because clearly Nikolaj Ehlers playing 12 minutes a night is not the answer.
Well, and I don't understand how we're having issues winning. So let's demote our greatest chance creator. That's
having issues scoring.
Yeah.
And Ehlers, it's you said it. I think you said it 2 podcasts ago where it's if you bench Ehlers or you sit him, you play him 12 minutes. And then the last 3 minutes of the game, you throw him out there and you're try and get a goal. It's well, he's going to be ice cold. Whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's a basketball thing. I deal with this. That was my role when I played basketball was shooting threes. And so we'd be down 6 with 45 seconds left and I'd sat the whole fourth quarter and I get subbed out there. Okay, go hit us 2 threes. Well, I haven't taken a shot in a real time 20 minutes. So you're going to need to give me enough time to put up like 2 first before, or at least 1 to get me going. I think realistically, what the issue is, I think first off, his minutes went down because he moved down the power play unit. I have noticed when the Jets are when they're on the power play, my issue is they run the first unit for so long and then they give the second unit like 20 seconds. So of course, Ehlers on the second unit, his minutes usage is going to drop because 1, he's not on the first unit, and 2, the second unit is barely out there. So unless there's like 7 power plays, he's not going to get that much ice time. So especially like when you drop him in the lineup like they did, it just I don't know what the solution is, because we've noticed at this point that Bowness just does, and as much as I like him and I will still advocate for him as a coach, it just seems like he just does not care about who you like, unless your name, I mean, I guess unless your name is Kyle Connor.
Yeah.
Like, well, and I guess Connor's been dropped to the second line before, like, not really, but he's been dropped a little, like unless
Connor
your name
and
is
Scheifele, I think, are the only two that haven't really moved down. Like past
Scheifele's moved a couple times.
6.
Yeah.
Right. But
Scheifele's moved a couple times. But like, unless your name is Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, or
Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Well, I wouldn't even say Pierre-Luc Dubois. I was just going to say Josh Morrissey. I'm just saying the entire team.
Yeah.
Guys that don't move. Like, unless you're those 3 guys, and I guess you can include Dubois, you're allowed to get moved anywhere in the lineup, which for a team that would be filled with like 2-way forwards and they're all the same player, which I mean, I guess half this team is when you look at Mason Appleton and Sacramento but when you look at this team, there are specific guys that I think even like Paul Maurice knew, okay, they just need to be like, besides Wheeler was declining and needed to drop in the lineup. I'm glad Bowness has done that. And that's not a knock on Wheeler. It's just his legs have started to go. And so he's still a good player, but just not anymore at this level. But even Maurice realized that, okay, I can't put Nikolaj Ehlers on the 4th line. Like, I can't do that. Like, unless I'm just going to start giving the 4th line, like, second line minutes, I'm not doing that. So for me, I don't know what really needs to change other than a trade. And I know we've talked about this. We had a whole episode previous where we talked about trade deadline stuff. At this point, like, and I will keep advocating for at least 2 moves now need to be made, especially if Perfetti's going to be out for a long period of time. I think 2 now move in. Before I would advocate for 1 move for a forward, maybe a defenseman if you want, and then a depth guy if it's a depth forward or defenseman. Now I'm thinking it needs to be 2 forwards, maybe a defenseman, and I would even count now the depth guy needs to now be a forward.
Yeah.
So you look at sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, to further your point, like Arizona has 3 or 4 forwards that
was
have
exactly
been,
who I was going to mention.
Yeah, has been made available. So you can go out and get a high profile name and then go to Arizona and get what's his name? Nick Bukestad and Christian Fischer, like you said, or Lawson Krause, like 2 guys that will add some life into the bottom 6. But we talked about that last episode. Trade deadline, like it's next week.
Yeah.
Like we said, hopefully Brian doesn't see Chevy at the cabin because moves need to be made. I have hope. I hope he doesn't let me down. I have hope that he'll actually make a move.
Well, we've heard more this year than in previous years.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's making phone calls.
How much of that is him making phone calls versus him like feeding insiders information to make it look like he's like, I don't know. Like you never know, right? Because I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I want to touch on the power play thing you said about the first and second unit. It's infuriating when, like, I don't mind when the top unit is Ehlers, Morrissey, Connor, Dubois, Scheifele. I think that's what it was last night. Yeah. I don't mind if that unit gets a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But I mind if we're on our 4th power play of the game. The first unit's been out there for a minute and a half every time, and all they're doing is forcing Kyle Connor one-timers or whatever they're doing.
Or not even like
and none of it's
entering the
working.
zone. Yeah.
Yeah, and none of it is working. And Ehlers is just sitting there on the second unit. I forget which game that was, but the Jets had like 6 or 7. I think it was Columbus. I think
Was it the Columbus
Jets
or was
had.
it the Devils game?
I'm not sure,
No,
but
the Jets had a lot of penalties in the Devils game. I apologize.
it was Columbus. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like they had 6 or 7 power plays, and Ehlers only had like 2 minutes of power play time, where the top guys
They
had
had
like
2
6,
5-on-3s, didn't they?
3 5-on-3s.
Or was it
I
3?
think.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, because they scored on the first one and then missed on the next two. Anyways,
yeah, go ahead.
but yeah, the top unit is like going out there for a minute 45 seconds. They can't enter the zone, and then when they do, they force it to Kyle Connor. He shoots it high and wide. It rims around the glass, and it's all the way down the ice. And it's like, well, when that happens, 3 or 4 straight power plays, start with the second unit. Like, yeah, they do that once in a while, but then the second unit is off in 45 seconds, and I guess that's a choice at that point. But
yeah.
I don't like when the first unit's not working and they don't start with the second unit or give the second unit the bulk of the time. And that happened in the Columbus game. But if they're going to load up one unit, like AKA put Ehlers on the top unit, I wouldn't even mind. But then again, like if they've gone 0 for 4 in a game with this top unit, start with the second unit with Gagne, Wheeler, Pionk, Schmidt, and Lowry, I think it's Stenlund. I think it's Stenlund. Right. But then again, start with that unit and just see what happens, because the top unit's not working anyways, you know?
Yeah. I would even go 0 for 2. And on the third one, I'd start with the second.
Maybe. Yeah.
Or even if you we've seen power plays this year where they've stacked the first unit and they get nothing. Like absolutely nothing in the first power play. I'd even say on the second power play. At that point, I'd either start with the second unit or I'd go for 30 seconds with the first unit and go, okay, you have 30 seconds to create something. If you're not creating enough chances by then, you're coming off and we're bringing on the second unit. And I get the second unit isn't as strong. And I think that's why Bonus has been trying to play the first unit more, because it's all the top 6 guys that should be getting the power play time.
Yeah.
But Pionk's on the second unit, and I get we bash him, but he's a power play merchant. That's exactly when I want you to play him. I don't want you to play him any other ice time other than like this is. But now we had this problem with a certain man we traded to Columbus where he didn't play defense and he was really a power play merchant. And I wish you could do this in hockey, just bring guys on for the power play. And I know you can't do that, but that's what Pionk is good at. And so that's why I want the second unit to probably go out a little bit more, because I think he can be a little bit more of a quarterback. And then you got to have Lowry out there, because if you're going to have Pionk bomb from the point, I want our best net front presence out there. Like it just gives a different look. It makes the penalty kill have to try to scheme around 2 different styles. It's not. And then I hate when the second unit starts playing like the first unit where they're looking for one-timers. And I'm like, okay, this isn't who you are. I just want you to put pucks on net. That's what your unit is good at.
Yeah.
Get Pionk or whoever to just put pucks on net, and then you crash. Like you have Gagne who can crash. Like I get he's an all-around difference. Like he can shoot a little bit. He can crash the net. He can be a guy in front. And that's what I want. I want Lowry to crash. I want Gagne to crash. Stenlund, I get he's like, if you want to put Stenlund out there with Lowry, sure. Who else is on that unit?
Wheeler.
Yeah,
Wheeler and then Pionk. I think that's the unit.
Well, yeah, Wheeler.
We don't see them enough to know.
Like I would say it should be Wheeler, Pionk, Lowry, Gagne, and then I guess I don't really care who the 5th is. It was
Schmidt, I think, and they use him as the shooter.
Yeah,
they feed him the one-timers, which is fine. I think I'd rather it be Pionk if one of the defensemen is going to be a shooter.
Yeah,
I'd rather it be Pionk, but whatever.
Like I want the distributor to be Lowry. I'm fine with either Schmidt or Pionk to shoot. As much as Pionk probably should be shooting more, Schmidt's still good to also be a distributor as well. But then I want Wheeler feeding like Pionk either, and they don't have to be one time like wind it up all the way back. Like I'm fine with a nice little
scratchers.
Yeah, like I'm fine with just a pass to Pionk, and he kind of like stick handles for about a second, tries to find an angle, and then fire one on net. And it doesn't have to be for a goal. It can be for a rebound, for Lowry to tip in, or for Gagne to get a tip. Like it doesn't have to be these pass back to the point like Kyle Connor back scratch one-timers. Like that's not what that unit is. And so I think it has to do with scheme. But
yeah, it's partly scheme, and I think the whole thing with the first unit not doing anything was one of their biggest issues was entries. And when Ehlers was sitting there in the second unit and the first unit couldn't get into the zone for a minute and a half, it was even more infuriating because it's like your fastest player, your best entry guy is just sitting on the second unit. And then the second unit would come on the ice. Ehlers would do that thing where he winds it up and they would boom, 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 be in the zone. And it's like, well, what are we doing? So
yeah, why is it on the second unit?
Yeah. I hope that we keep these configurations the way that they are. Yeah. Like you said, when the second unit's out there, I'd like to see them simplified a little bit more. Wheeler tried to hit Pionk backdoor for like one-timers, like he was prime Patrick Laine 2 times.
Wouldn't you say Patrick Laine's now in his prime? Actually, no, he's fallen off.
A little bit. Whatever.
Not a hot take. Patrick Laine's fallen off since his 50-goal season.
He's actually having a good year.
He is having a good year.
When he plays the Jets. When he plays the Jets, he lights them up every time.
You know what I think he needs to do? I think he needs to make his room in Columbus just like all Jet stuff, so that whenever or get whoever it is at the hotel room to put Jet stuff there, so that he thinks he's playing the Jets that night. So then he'll play well every night. But anyway,
exactly. Yeah. No. He lights up the Jets every time. But again, Wheeler can't be forcing these backdoor passes to Neil Pionk for these one-timers because it's just not going to work. I'd like to see them simplify it. Like you said, just get shots on net, crash the net. Have Wheeler use his passing ability. That's still there. It's still evident.
Yep. And I get, I said earlier that he's declined. That is one skill that he still has that I will to this day say, as much as Perfetti's been a good passer, Blake Wheeler is still the best passer on this team.
Yeah.
That is his one skill. Well, I guess the shootout, because he's still a god in the shootout, but I don't know why. But his best attribute,
the helmet, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I guess he's only really good when they need him to score. But when you think about it, his best attribute is passing, and I get he's not in the first unit anymore, and I get he's not feeding Kyle Connor, and we kind of forget about that. But he's got other options now. Like he can even quote unquote pass it towards. Like if you're that good of a passer, I'm sorry, but if you get an angle where you can quote unquote pass it or shoot at the I wouldn't even say shoot the puck, pass the puck to the net for a rebound. Like if you find an angle, do that. I don't care. Just that second you just need to throw pucks on net. And I think that's half the reason why the Jets have problems is because some games in the power play and 5-on-5, they don't just throw pucks at the net. Like just make the simple play. And I know on this podcast, we talk about all the nice plays and all the everything, but sometimes playoff teams and good teams score dirty goals. That's just what they do. And I am fine with that. I will not complain if you nice plays are great, but I will praise a nice play just as much as a dirty play. Like that's why I like Adam Lowry so much, because he makes so many dirty plays and lots of his goals are dirty goals. Yes, he'll get some tip-ins, but a lot of them are him just whacking his stick on the goalie's pad and he flips one over and scores. Like it's just effort. And I'm not saying the Jets effort has dropped at any point this season in a while, but sometimes you just need to put in a little bit more effort when a puck is thrown towards the net to make a play.
Yeah, I agree. And really all we're asking for on the power play is shots on net, because there are times where they'll go the whole 2 minutes without a shot. So simplify shots on net, the top unit with Ehlers on it. There was good movement last night. I hope they stick with that. I hope they don't go away with it, because it looked good, even though maybe they went 1 for 4, 1 for 5. I don't know what the official number was, but it looked better. They had more options. They had Dubois down low. They had Ehlers on the wing where he scored. They had the Kyle Connor one-timer. They had Scheifele in the bumper spot where he scored 45,000 goals in that one playoff run from that bumper spot. I don't know why they ever took him out of there. Whatever.
Put him in front of the net.
Morrissey from the point. But I hope they stick with that. We can move on. If you've missed Brian to this point, don't worry. You're gonna hear his voice now. We're gonna hear a word from our sponsors. So if you missed Brian, tune in. He still does our ad reads. He's great at them. So we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back with some good topics about Hellebuyck and whether or not it's time to panic. So stick around. But first, a word from our sponsors.
NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hand with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 and win $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game, and if it doesn't hit, you'll get a free bet back. Download the app now and sign up with code THPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA with code THPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void in Ohio. See show notes for details. Hey, Level Flight podcast fans. This time of year, everyone's talking about making the big changes, which is all well and good, but most of the time, it's pretty unrealistic. Even I've fallen into that, claiming it's time to go to the gym, but next thing you know it, I'm forearm deep in a bag of Chicago mixed popcorn. That being said, I found that actually the smallest changes to your routine can make the biggest impact, in the same way that you don't have to break the bank to make a big deal purchase. Even the smallest things can be a part of a big change, even if it's something you use every day, like buying a pair of Raycons, for example. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can build great habits without breaking the bank. With their portability, your Raycons can be with you as you go for walks, head to the store, or whatever you might be doing. Too cold out? No worries, use them for your daily activities around the house. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low-latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with a battery that will last you all night at your next party, Raycon's got you covered. And yep, Raycons start at half the price of other premium audio brands. So you don't have to choose between products. You can get one of each, or a pair and a spare, and still pay less than you would with some of the other guys. Keep them at your desk, in your backpack, or wherever you'd find yourself needing a pair. Even if you know you'll love your Raycons as much as I do, Raycon wants to make sure you feel great about your purchase. They offer buy now, pay later options, and every purchase has an easy and free return guarantee. One of my favorite features of Raycons is how they can be fitted to your ear with custom gel tips. My ears can get sore sometimes with other headphones, but these fit perfectly. It also helps a ton when I'm working out too, and they're actually water and sweat resistant. If I'm going for a run, I'm going to sweat. Now I don't have to worry about the sweat getting into the earbuds. But my favorite feature, though, is their noise isolation. We're all students, so trying to study can be a bit tough if you're in a loud area. With Raycon's noise isolation, I can get to work and be as productive as my procrastinating self will let me be. So, are you ready to buy something small with big impact? Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/THPN.
And we are back. Hope you liked hearing Brian do our ad reads. He, like I said, he's amazing at them. All right, we're going to get into a topic that was brought up on, I believe it was by Keith Yandel on the Sportsnet intermission show. They brought up whether or not Connor Hellebuyck is a Hall of Famer or a future Hall of Famer. Like right now, if he retired, he's not a Hall of Famer. I'll say that. Yeah. But if he continues on this trajectory, is he or is he not a Hall of Famer? Now, my biggest thing was Roberto Luongo getting inducted. I believe it was in 2020. Or was it the most recent class?
I believe it was the most. Yeah, I believe.
Okay, it was the most recent one. Yeah. That's my biggest maybe Luongo getting in gives a better chance for Hellebuyck. Like goalies from this era, I think Vasilevsky's in guaranteed just because he's won 2 cups.
And he has a Vezina.
And he has a Vezina. Hellebuyck has a Vezina, which Luongo does not. Let's just roll through their career stats really quickly. This is basically all I'm using my argument for, because besides Luongo's the most recent goalie to be inducted in A, and B, all the other goalies that were inducted are like Martin Brodeur, Patrick Waugh. These are unbelievable goalies. Now, Hellebuyck, I think, might need to win to get in. He might need to win a cup or at least make the Stanley Cup finals like Luongo did. But okay, Luongo's career stats, he won 489 games, 392 losses, 124 OT losses, save percentage of .919, and goals against average of .252. Hellebuyck, to this point, 227 wins, 146 losses, 36 OT losses, .917 save percentage, and 2.66 goals against average. Now, if he has another 2 to 3 good years here, I could see him getting in just because that goals against average number will hopefully come down. And the save percentage number is higher right now. It's .925. So if he keeps that, that'll push up a little bit more. But really, I think it comes down to whether or not he wins another Vezina.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
I think, like, with me, and I do this a lot with basketball players too, when you look at basketball, and honestly, any sport, baseball, and I know baseball's a lot harder to get into the Hall of Fame, but when you think about it, like, it's not, yes, it's about numbers, and yes, it's about accolades, but at the same time, sometimes it's not. So it's hard to tell right now, because, like, if Connor Hellebuyck was like 34, and like if this was 5 years from now and he was 34 and we had his entire sample size to look at, and let's say he keeps this up where he's at around a 920, 922 save percentage, and his goals against is like a 2.4, and it, like, his goals against average drops and he gets way more wins, because what is he, like, just under 200 wins off of Luongo?
Yeah,
like that.
I believe so.
So let's say both of their stats are similar, and let's say he wins the Vezina this year or another year, because yes, I know he's in for the Vezina running and he may not win it this year. And like, I think for sure he's in if the Jets win the cup. I think he's in if he keeps up the level of play and the Jets continue to be a playoff contender, and he continues this level of play. My thing is, and we've seen it, he won the Vezina, then he kind of had like a year and then a not so great year, and then he's back to being a really good goaltender. Now, does those 2 bad years also correlate with him having bad teammates? Sure, but
now bad years is relative though, because like a bad year for Hellebuyck is a good year for any goalie in the league, right? It's just not Vezina level like we're seeing right now, like we saw in 2019. And I think, you make some good points. I think the way Hellebuyck plays, we talked about it earlier in the podcast about how he's just in the right spot and he kind of just lets pucks hit him because he's 6'4", 200 whatever pounds. He's just kind of in the right spot. He's not making the acrobatic diving saves. And I just feel like Marc-Andre Fleury played till, like, he's still playing. He played till he was 39, still playing. Or he's 40. I don't know how old Marc-Andre Fleury is, but he's up there.
He's almost belongs around as that entire Penguins core. So
he might be another Hall of Famer that's currently playing. I think he gets in because he won that cup. Yeah,
for sure. He is in for sure.
Yeah, he's in. But Hellebuyck, I feel like people are worried, and I'm with them, because like the aging curves of players that provide value to the team, like it kind of starts to drop off at like 30, 31 is when you start to see that slow decline. But for Hellebuyck, I don't think that's the case, just because he doesn't make the big acrobatic saves. He just lets pucks hit him. He can just sit in the net and let pucks hit him and be in the right spot till he's 38 or whatever, right? So I think for me, it comes down to either winning a cup, either making a Stanley Cup Finals run, or winning another Vezina. And now, if he wins another Vezina, I think he's in for sure, because that's too big. Like theoretically, if he wins another Vezina, it's going to be like an impressive. Like, of course, it's going to be the best season as a goalie. The 2019 was probably the best display of goaltending I've seen from him, even better than this year. If he can get anywhere close to that, and like you said, not have like 2-3 more like meh years where he's just kind of like near the average in goaltending, I think he'll be great. And then again, those 2 years, those 2 down, quote unquote down years, he was still like top 10 or like top 12 across most models in like goal save above expected. So he's still like a top 12 goalie in the league. He's just not top 3, which is what we expect, right? Vasilevsky has the Game 7 wins. He has the Stanley Cups. Marc-Andre Fleury has the Stanley Cups. He has the Vezina. Like, he has the longevity. He has the wins. Yeah. Hellebuyck needs something else. He needs another big accomplishment, and he needs to have 6 to 7 more years of consistent, good top 5 play. And I think he'll be an unbiased opinion, obviously, as a Jets fan. But.
Now, my question to you is, and I think this is a really important question.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at that 19 run, let's say they beat Vegas.
Okay.
And he has at least a Stanley Cup Finals appearance. And let's say this year, as much as we know that they're good, let's say this window closes, and let's say they don't make another run until like he's basically at the end of his career or he's a backup. Do you think that changes anything or not?
I do. I think if they made it to the, even if they lost in the finals, which I don't think they would have, that team was stacked, and it's sad to look back. But I think if they made it, they would have beat Washington. And I think even if they made it and lost to Washington, having a Stanley Cup Finals appearance and playing on that national stage does so much more for your Hall of Fame case than losing in 5. Because if you look at it on paper, like, yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury, the guy who's going to get into the Hall of Fame, goalied the crap out of the Jets in that series, right? Like, he stole basically an entire series.
Yeah.
But when you
Which
look
Connor
at it on
Hellebuyck
paper,
has done, but
right. But when you look at it on paper, the Jets lost in 5.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't look great. I do think if they won that series, if he had another playoff series win under his belt and he went to the Stanley Cup Final, it wouldn't do a lot, but it would definitely do a decent amount to getting him in. Where I would say if he made that and wins a Vezina in 2-3 years, he'd be in. Yeah. But again, it looks bad. The playoff stuff is there though, because he swept Edmonton that one year. He swept Edmonton.
Yeah.
Like, there were some good other performances on the Jets that year, but he stole a series and he swept the best player in like NHL history, arguably the most talented player in NHL history. And his team got swept by Connor Hellebuyck, right?
Yeah.
He has playoff series wins. That's not, and hopefully he gets another 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 this year. But I think making that finals run would have done a decent amount for his Hall of Fame case. But you never know, right?
Well,
we'll never know.
And that's the thing. That this is all, and that's my problem with trying to look at guys. The only guy I will actually yes, this is for the podcast. This is for your guys' enjoyment, right? Like, for the viewers. But my thing is even when I look at basketball players, people are like unless you're close to the end of the career, like the only guys I will actually talk about like Hall of Fame cases in the NBA right now, just to give you an example, are LeBron, KD, Chris Paul, maybe I wouldn't even talk about Kyrie Irving right now. Like, you have to be like at the end, like, and I know Connor's a big LeBron fan, and he'll say LeBron still has 5 more years left. But but when you look at guys, you kind of have to, like, I as much as Connor Hellebuyck, yes, he's 29, and I get he's young still, but it's hard to look at their career and try to foresee what's going to happen. That's why I like to talk about someone like Marc-Andre Fleury is a perfect example for this. Like, he's already out into his mid to late 30s. I'm okay to talk about Hall of Fame at this point because he's 1 or 2 years away. So you can kind of predict where the rest of his career is going to go. It's an easier way to predict. And the sample size is there enough to say, okay, if he retired right now, even though we know he's got 1 or 2 more years left, he's probably making the Hall of Fame, right? So with Connor Hellebuyck, this window that the Jets have, yes, is small, but they have some other prospects that make their window small now and maybe a little bit bigger later, right? So and you think that you would hope that he's the goaltender for that next window when he's older. So it's kind of hard to predict that, but like, as much as we can sit here and speculate, it's kind of you have no idea, because he could, like, I would hope not, but he could literally fall off a cliff for 2 seasons and be terrible. Yeah,
you never know.
And then the Jets either trade him or they let him go in free agency, and we have a brand new goaltender. Right. So,
like, and goalies are the weirdest, like, position in sports. They can be top 3 one year and then bottom 3 the next.
Or
like,
quarterback.
Look at Carter. Yeah, look at Carter Hart. He was like the worst goalie in the league last year, Philip Grubauer aside, and now he's actually having a decent year. So you never know.
That I will chalk down to being young, because he's only 24 now.
Yeah, he's young.
But I get what you're saying. You have a good point. Philip Grubauer, I guess, is probably the better example. He was a better goaltender with the Avs, and then he went to Seattle, and he's just been right?
Yeah,
So
and like another thing is like when you're trying to compare, like you said, we need to wait, obviously, because he's only 28, 29 or whatever. But when you're trying to compare, like Roberto Luongo just got in, Hellebuyck's on a similar trajectory ish.
yeah,
Like he needs to do a few more things, but he's there. Like he's there. Like, but a lot of goalies, like, I don't know. Anyways, Marc-Andre Fleury, if you try and compare to him and the accolades that he has a Vezina and like 4 Stanley Cups.
thanks Crosby. That's what he says.
Yeah, so it's like that's not even debatable. Whether or not, like, if you're comparing those two, because Hellebuyck, as much as I'd like to say the Jets are going to win 4 Stanley Cups in the back half of his career, it's not going to happen.
They did that. Oh my!
I know. But Marc-Andre Fleury, you can't stack up to the accolades he has. Roberto Luongo, you can. So I think we're in agreement that a Vezina, a Stanley Cup probably puts him over the top and puts
Or
him
a
in
run.
that conversation, or another run.
I would even say
multiple runs.
Yeah. If he doesn't get another Vezina, or if he gets another Vezina and multiple runs in these next couple of years, if we're able to figure out the roster and keep this window open, then yes, I would say if it's multiple runs, he shows that he's one of the top 3 goalies in the league for while we're in our windows, then yes, no debate. He will get in, maybe not first ballot, but maybe gets in on his second or third try. But at this point right now, obviously with his current resume, no, he needs another Vezina. He needs runs. Or if he doesn't get multiple runs, but the Jets win a cup and 1 or 2 Vezinas, done.
Yeah, I agree. That's about as far as this conversation can go at this stage of his career. I like that we're having the conversation about a current Jet who's like not even 30 years old and whether or not they're going to be in the Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool.
And it's not Blake Wheeler or Mark Scheifele.
Yeah. No. Well, Mark. Yeah. No.
Well, Mark Scheifele get in. That's a different debate.
If he wins the Stanley Cup, no. Okay. Everyone just win a cup and everyone will get in.
Well, I mean that's how it works how it works in the NBA. Like Patrick McCaw might make the Hall of Fame because he's won he won 4 championships in 4 seasons or whatever. Like
boom. Yeah. No, we covered that pretty well just because like we can't really predict what he's gonna do.
Or the Jets.
Yeah. But it's a nice conversation to have. And I'd be really interested to hear Brian's thoughts on that because again, like opinions may vary very widely on a topic like that. We're going to end off the podcast here with a topic where there's been a lot of panic on Jets Twitter lately, and rightfully so. When you lose to the Islanders, who just lost Barzal, he's out. The Blue Jackets, you look terrible against the Rangers, but you win. And then the way that they went into the All-Star break, the way they're playing right now, there's a lot of panic. There's a lot of last year showing up in some of these games. Elliott, is it time to panic about the 2022-23 Winnipeg Jets?
At this current moment, no. Ask me in a week. That is my thing.
Yeah.
Right now, I would say no. If Chevy either decides to go to the cabin or he just decides to not do anything, then yes. Then I would say, then I will flip open the panic button like it's deal or no deal, and I'm hitting the panic button.
We should do a deal or no deal segment on here. I don't know. For trade deadline. Oh my God, that's such a good idea.
So you just mentioned that. I just thought of a great idea. You viewers, and we will post this reel on Twitter before we do our next episode or we do our trade deadline episode. We could even do this live, like we've talked about doing the trade deadline live. You can post your questions during that stream or in the comments on Twitter on any social media and give us deals, and we will either deal or no deal those deals.
Great idea. Be on the lookout for that next week.
Anyways,
yeah, go ahead.
I think right now you don't panic. Especially you do not panic if the Jets make a deal or multiple deals. Like if I open my phone in 2 hours and the Jets have, I'm not even going to say Timo Meier, but let's say the Jets traded for anybody. I would even at this point say they make their depth scoring option trade right now. Then yes, then I would say, nope, don't panic. We won't panic until it's later in the year and we get into mid-March and whatever deal we've made isn't working, which I would assume whatever deal we make will probably work because a lot of the deals we're making are with teams with good players on bad teams. So if they come to a good team, right? But
yeah,
you'd probably hope that they would work out. But, I think right now, you look again at the money puck deserve-o-meter. We lost 3 games that technically we should have won, and we won a game we weren't supposed to win. So realistically, let's say you take the deserve-o-meter percentages and you flip that, it's now a 3-1 road trip instead of a 1-3 road trip.
Yeah.
And then we're having a completely different discussion because the Jets are almost at 40 wins and they're under 20 losses. And you go, okay, this team right now without is the real deal. Now, I will say, now thinking about that, I'm kind of glad we went 1-3 on the road trip before the trade deadline.
You think it'll entice Chevy to do more?
Exactly that. Because we've looked good and now we're in a rut, especially without Perfetti. So I think without Perfetti, we go 1-3 on the road trip before the deadline. I think that is a perfect storm for Chevy to go, you know what? Let's add some pieces. Because I think if they get close to 40 wins, let's say they're, what are they right now? 35, 22, and I'm not even going to count the overtime loss because there's no overtime losses. So they're 35 and 22. You give them an extra 2 wins. So they're at 37 and you take away 2 losses. Sorry. So they'd be 37 and 20.
Yeah.
Would be 37 and 20 or 38 and 19. Either way, they're closer to 40 wins and their current form looks better. Chevy looks at it and goes, oh, we're almost at 40 wins already. We're fine. We don't have to make a deal. But with Perfetti getting hurt and the recent form, I think they make a deal. But I would still say for this week, for this podcast episode, for episode 16, I'm not panicking. Ask me again next week for episode 17 or whenever if we're live on trade deadline day.
Yeah.
You can ask me again. And my answer may be different depending on what happens on Friday and their current form at the time.
Yeah, I'm with you in the big picture sense where I'm not panicking like the season is over and they're going to miss the playoffs or anything like that. But I'm panicking in the sense where I'm seeing too much of last year pop up in these games. Like the New York Islanders loss where they played great throughout and then 2 killer mistakes, puck management mistakes, burned them and they lose the game. That is got 2021-22 written all over it. The Columbus game, like again, you should probably generate enough to beat Columbus, no matter how hot the goalie is. Like it's like Columbus is not a team that you should be worried about. And then New Jersey's New Jersey. That loss I can excuse because they're good, but it's just the play. The play at times. I'm not saying it always looks like this, but at times the play is looking very uninspired and very like lackluster, and that comes with the puck management issues. They're just throwing the puck and they turned it over and Hellebuyck will bail us out. And he did in the Rangers game. But like you said, they're generating chances. Their defensive game was much better against the Islanders. I'm not panicking completely, but like you said, if they don't make a move and this is the team that they're going to the playoffs with, I will be panicking. They need, we talked about it with the power play, the second unit having like Gagne on it. Like we need to, they need to make some moves to push guys further down the lineup, which will create like the bottom 6. This is one thing I'm sound the alarm, hitting the deal or no deal button, panicking on is the bottom 6. If they don't make a move to like, and then again, I'm not saying go out and get a bottom 6 forward. I'm saying go out and get a top 6 forward and move one of the top 6 guys into the bottom 6. The bottom 6 is not generating anything. Yes, they're killing penalties. Their puck management has been spotty, like the whole team has, but theirs especially. And it just seems like they're doing nothing in the offensive zone. I read it on Twitter last night. It was Scott Billick, one of his tweets. It was in one of the comments. I forget who searched it up. I'm sorry, I can't give credit to it, but they basically looked it up, and the last goal that came from the bottom 6 was Carson Coleman against Philly, like on January, I don't know, 20 something. Like it was before that, way before the break. It was on that road trip that ended off the break. That's ridiculous. Like, the guys in the bottom 6 are not generating. Yes, they're getting pucks deep and they're banging bodies, but they're not putting pucks to the net. They're not scoring. They're not generating anything.
Good old school Canadian hockey at its best.
Not scoring any goals. Yep. But with the loss of Perfetti, with the loss of Perfetti and the trade deadline looming, there is a little bit of panic in me because if he doesn't make a big splash, if he doesn't make a big move, this could all fall apart very quickly because let's say, just throwing a day out there, Perfetti's out 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. They don't make a big move. They maybe add like one bottom six guy at the deadline, and then Perfetti's still out. You're still going to have these same issues where the bottom six can't really score, and Perfetti's going to be out. So the top six is going to have to do all the scoring. Hellebuyck's going to have to do all the carrying on the back end, and Morrissey's going to have to do what he does to just pull wins out of their behind and hope that it gets them, like, they're almost a lock to make the playoffs at this point. But at this rate, if you keep playing the way you're playing and you don't make any moves, you're going to end up in a wild card spot and play Colorado on the road round one. And the season's like,
and you're
like
down 2-0 before you even come home. Like,
exactly. It's the trajectory they're on is very concerning, but I'm not ready to panic about the entire season just yet because their play hasn't been that terrible. There are things that are popping up that are terrible and need to be addressed, and Bonus knows what they are. He keeps saying, like, puck management, we know we can give a better effort, but when you look at it at the end of the game, like you said, you look at the chances they're generating, the XG, the deserve to win meter, they're generating enough. They're generating more than the opposition. They're suppressing enough chances. It's just 2 or 3 mistakes a game that are killing them, and they keep popping up, but they need to have a game. Colorado, this game on Friday against Colorado can change everything. If they come out and 4-0 Colorado,
4-1, 5-2,
like they can put all these questions to bed. But if they come out and they lose 5-1 and they make 3 boneheaded turnovers, then this is going to be.
And
this
Colorado's a team that will convert on their chances. This isn't a normal team, but
yeah. So that game will come out tonight. When you're listening to this, it'll be Friday. That should be a really good game, but I'm not ready to panic. But they can put these questions to bed with that game if they want, if they can.
And I think the last thing I will say is I think this also has to do with fatigue.
Yeah, but
fatigue for the top 6.
Okay, but that was the fatigue thing was a thing that came up before the All-Star break, and it was like, well, that one I could excuse a little bit because if you look at their January schedule, it was like back-to-back, day off, game, day off, game, and it was like that the whole month. They played every other day for the entire month. They were traveling, they were on the road, yada yada. Now it's like they had the break, they were at home, they had a 4-game road trip. Now they're back home for, I think, 6 of their next 7. If this is, like you said, ask me in a week, ask me in 2 weeks, because if on this homestand they still look tired and still look fatigued, that's going to be very, very concerning.
And if you're a viewer, I will say don't watch the bottom 6 because at this point the bottom 6 will look fresh for the rest of the season and once the Jets make the playoffs. I'm saying late in games, look for Connor, Scheifele, look for Dubois, because they're being asked to do Morrissey. They're being asked to do a lot, and I think because this team doesn't have enough depth goal scoring, they have to do all the scoring, which means they have to do most of the chance creation.
Right,
and so they're gonna run out of gas, and that is why we keep saying they need to add at least one top 6 forward that adds some more scoring and some more chance generation, some more guys that put up points. But
yeah, it's a big week coming up. They've got the Colorado game on Friday. They've got the New York Islander game on Sunday, both at home. Then they've got the Kings on Tuesday. By that point, we'll be back next week, Wednesday or Thursday, recording. And then they've got the home and home Friday, Saturday against Edmonton. Friday, March 3rd, they play that night at 8 p.m. in Edmonton. That's trade deadline day. Be on the lookout. We might do a live stream. Again, like
when
the
does
live
the deadline
stream
close?
3 p.m. I believe. Okay. There might be 2. Regardless, it's sometime in the early to mid afternoon. What we are planning on doing, just so that the viewers are in the loop here, either if the Jets make a move before, let's say it ends at 3. I believe it ends at 3. If the Jets make a move before 2:00, then we're going to jump on a live stream and analyze it. That's our initial plan. We'll let you know if that happens. But if no moves have been made until the last hour of trade deadline, then we might just hop on a live stream and live stream the last hour, because it's like, well, either the Jets are going to make a move, or we can stay on and talk about how they didn't make a move, right?
Or we can just talk about other teams in the
Other
division
teams,
making moves.
Timo Meyer, how good he's going to look in a Devils uni, right? So,
or how good he's still going to look in a Sharks uni, because the Sharks didn't like any of the trade packages they've received.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's our plan. I'm really hoping that we stick to that, because that'll be really fun. I love trade deadline day more than like anything in the hockey, like especially because January and February can be a bit of a lull in the hockey season, and then after trade deadline day, it's like a shot of espresso for the rest of the season, because contenders are trying to get in a rhythm. It's amazing. So I hope we do a live stream of sorts. Be on the lookout for that. We missed Brian Rebel, a avid listener of the show. Was wondering what was the official question? Oh,
I believe it was.
Would you be willing to discuss how peaceful it is without Brian in the studio? Just a thought. It was very peaceful, I must say, not having Brian here.
we miss him,
Brian,
but
yeah,
it was a little bit.
Brian still did our ad reads. He still contributed. He's probably gonna want to edit something. Brian does so much work for this show.
Yeah.
So I can't say anything bad about him.
Nope.
I know he's trying to bait us, but no, Brian's just too good of a guy. He's too awesome. Can't do it.
This show, if I'm being honest, doesn't feel the same without all three of us.
Yeah.
I
agree.
This is the trio.
You need the full trio. It's like Connor Shifley Appleton, It's just like
I would have said Connor Shifley Ehlers in the Maurice era, but you need to have it, because if you don't, then I don't know who's coaching.
Brian's amazing. He does so much work for the show. I can't say anything bad about him. I just can't do it. Can't bring myself to it. So that was episode 16. We got into some good topics. Whether or not Hellebuyck's a Hall of Famer, it's time to panic, Nikolaj Ehlers ice time. A lot of topics that were making the rounds on Jets Twitter, Jets Instagram, Jets Facebook, Jets social media. People were talking about it. I'm glad we got to talk about it. Yeah, newspaper. Yeah, in the paper. I'm glad we got to talk about it. And look out for us next week. Look on social media, because we'll keep you updated if we're going to do a regular episode, if we're going to live stream on trade deadline day.
We may even have to hop on if the Jets make a huge deal before the deadline, we may have to do an emergency episode, and you may get a quick little 20-minute from us, or half an hour. So be on the lookout. Follow us on all socials. Always posting. Connor's social, my social, Brian. We're all active all the time. So
at Level Flight WPG is the social media. We've plugged it many times. Go follow and be on the lookout. But thanks for tuning in. This was really fun. Go Jets.
Go Jets.
You've been listening to the Level Flight Podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network.